Thank God. This incredible HFY masterpiece found you today. Witness the legend starting now. You want to know about the day everything changed at the Galactic Academy? Fine. Let me tell you about Mira Hoffman, the tiny human girl who made an entire classroom of supposedly superior alien species collectively wet themselves. Not literally, of course, though some of us came pretty close. My name is Vorkith and I am, or rather was, one of the most promising students at the Academy. A Kralthian, if you must know. We stand 9 foot tall, have exoskeletons that can deflect plasma rounds and possess 6 limbs, capable of crushing steel. We are warriors, conquerors, the stuff of legends across 300 star systems. So, naturally, when a human child no taller than my knee joint walked into Advanced Xenobiology 301, I did what any sensible being would do. I laughed. So did everyone else. The human female, Mira, could not have been more than 12 cycles old by their reckoning. She had tangled brown hair that seemed to defy gravity in several directions at once, wore clothes that appeared to have been assembled in complete darkness, and carried a backpack nearly as large as her entire body. Her eyes, those disturbingly mobile human eyes, darted around the lecture hall with what I initially mistook for fear. I realize now it was assessment. Look at it, hissed Slixara, a Venoxian sitting beside me. Her forked tongue flickered with amusement. The humans must be desperate for enrollment numbers. Professor Kilverith, a dignified Matherian with 14 tendrils and 3 doctoral degrees, adjusted his translation collar. His voice, when it emerged, carried the weight of someone who had seen far too much bureaucratic nonsense. Class, please welcome our new transfer student, Mira Hoffman, from Earth. She will be joining us for the remainder of the term. But, Professor, called out Draximus, a Thoraxian whose species invented interstellar combustion engines. This is a graduate-level course. Is the human even old enough to understand basic molecular reconfiguration? More laughter. I will admit, I joined in. It seemed impossible that this creature, who looked like she should be playing with toys rather than studying advanced sciences, could possibly contribute anything meaningful. Mira said nothing. She simply walked, or rather trudged, down the stairs to an empty seat in the front row. The seat next to mine, because, of course, the universe has a sense of irony. Do not worry, small thing, I said, my mandibles clicking with what I thought was kindness. If you get confused, I can try to explain in simpler terms. She looked up at me, those brown eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that, for just a moment, made me uncomfortable. Thanks, she said, her voice flat. But I think I will manage. The first week was insufferable. Not because of Mira, precisely, but because of how ridiculously outmatched she appeared. During practical examinations, she could barely reach the laboratory equipment. When we studied the genetic structure of gamma hydri organisms, she had to stand on a chair to see the holo display. During our field assessment of hostile environment protocols, she moved so slowly in her protective gear that we literally had to wait for her to catch up. Why is she even here? Xanthia, a Plutonian crystalline being, asked during lunch. We sat in the commissary watching. Mira struggled to open a food container, designed for appendages much larger than her. Small human fingers. She is clearly not ready for this level of education. I heard, said Corax, lowering his voice conspiratorially, that humans are given special accommodations, diversity initiatives. They want to appear inclusive, even if it means lowering standards. I will pause here to say that I am deeply ashamed of my younger self, but I am telling you this story honestly. And honestly, I nodded in agreement. Mira, if she heard any of this, and her species has remarkable hearing, never reacted. She ate her meals alone, studied alone, and spoke only when called upon in class. Her answers were always correct. I noticed, but delivered in such a quiet, unremarkable way that no one seemed to take note. The real trouble started in week 3. Professor Kilverith announced a group project. We would be cataloguing and analyzing an unknown specimen from the outer territories, working in teams of 4. The assignment would constitute 40% of our final grade. I will assign the teams, the professor announced, and collective groans filled the chamber. Random assignment meant you might end up with incompetent partners. Vorkith, Slicksara, Draximus, and he paused. Consulting his datapad, Mira Hoffman. Perfect. Just perfect. We gathered after class to discuss the project. Well, 3 of us gathered. Mira stood slightly apart, hugging that enormous backpack. Listen, human, Draximus said, not unkindly, but not gently, either. This is a complex assignment. Why do not you just, I do not know, handle the data entry or something simple? We will do the actual analysis. I can help with the analysis, Mira said. Can you even reach the scanning equipment? Slicksara asked, and honestly, it was a fair question given the girl's height. I will figure it out. Look, I said, trying to be the voice of reason. We all want good grades. No offense, but you are, I gestured vaguely at her small form, limited. Let us handle the technical aspects. You can, I do not know, write the report or something. For the first time since arriving, Mira showed emotion. Her small jaw tightened. Her eyes narrowed. Her hands, and I noticed this particularly, clenched into fists. Fine, she said quietly. I will write the report. We should have paid more attention to that tone. The next day, we received our specimen, a bizarre creature from Sector 88, preserved in a Stasis field. It resembled a cross between a cephalopod and a crystalline formation with bioluminescent patches and what appeared to be both mechanical and organic components. Fascinating, Professor Kilvereth said as we gathered around. This creature was found in the depths of a methane ocean on Titan sister moon. Previous analysis has been inconclusive. Your task is to determine its biological classification, evolutionary origin, and, if possible, its purpose. Purpose? That was an odd word choice for a creature. We spent the next several cycles working. Draximus handled the molecular scans. Slicksara analyzed the chemical composition. I examined the structural integrity and muscular systems. Mira, true to her assignment, took notes and stayed out of the way. Except, she did not stay out of the way. Not really. You are scanning that frequency incorrectly, she said on the 3rd day. Draximus looked up from his equipment. Excuse me. The resonance frequency. You are using the standard range, but this creature has metallic components. You need to adjust for electromagnetic interference or you will get false readings. There was a long pause. The human is correct, Slicksara said, checking her own instruments. The readings are corrupted. Draximus adjusted the settings without acknowledging Mira's contribution. It happened again 2 days later. I was analyzing what I thought was a muscular structure when Mira leaned over, looked at my holographic display, and said, that is not a muscle. It is a nerve cluster that mimics muscular tissue. See the synaptic connectors. She was right. Again. By the end of the first week, a pattern had emerged. Mira would quietly observe, say nothing for long stretches, and then offer insights that were invariably correct. Not just correct, brilliant. Where are you getting this information? Slicksara finally asked, frustration evident in her tone. Are you accessing external databases? Because that is against the rules. Mira looked up from the notes she was compiling. No databases, just observation. Impossible. No. One can derive that level of detail from simple observation. Humans are good at pattern recognition, Mira said simply. She was understating things considerably. We would learn. The breakthrough came during week 2 of the project. We had reached a dead end. The creature's purpose, if it had one, remained elusive. It possessed characteristics of multiple phyla, had both organic and synthetic components, and defied every classification system we attempted. We are going to fail, Draximus said, which, coming from him, was like hearing a star announce it was going supernova. You did not fail at things. Maybe we are asking the wrong question, Mira said quietly. What? I turned to look at her. We keep trying to figure out what it is. Maybe we should ask who made it. That is absurd, Slicksara said. The scan showed it is biological, not mechanical. The scan showed it is both, Mira corrected. Biological and mechanical, organic and synthetic. It is not a creature, it is a creation. The room went silent. Explain, Professor Kilvereth said. He had been observing our group work and chose that moment to intervene. Mira stood up, walked to the specimen, and pointed with one small finger. The bioluminescent patches are not for communication or attraction. They are markers, tags. The crystalline structure is not natural formation. It is data storage. Clear's throat. The tentacles are not appendages, they are tools. This thing, she tapped the Stasis field, is a probe, an exploration drone designed to look biological. So it would not be immediately identified as artificial. That is, I started to object. But the words died in my throat as Professor Kilvereth began nodding slowly. Continue, he said to Mira. The methane environment was not its habitat. It was where it was abandoned or crashed, based on the degradation patterns and the isotopic decay in the metallic components. I would estimate it is approximately 4,000 cycles old. Whoever built it, she paused, looking at each of us. They were very, very advanced. Probably more advanced than any species in this room. She was not just right. She had solved the entire mystery they had. Stumped 3 supposedly superior beings, and if the professor's expression was any indication, had probably solved a puzzle the Academy had been working on for some time. Miss Hoffman, Professor Kilvereth said slowly. Where did you study before coming here? I did not, Mira said. Earth does not have formal xenobiology programs yet. She shrugged. Read a lot, and my mom works for the Planetary Defense Initiative, so we had access to some of the files from first contact. Just read a lot. Just as if synthesizing information from multiple disciplines and solving a 4,000 cycle old mystery was something anyone could do with sufficient reading. Our presentation 2 weeks later was a triumph. We received the highest marks in the class. Mira wrote the report as promised, and it was so thorough, so brilliant that Professor Kilvereth asked permission to publish it in the Galactic Journal of Xenobiological Studies. You would think this would change how people treated her. You would be wrong. She got lucky, Korak said dismissively. Or maybe she had help we do not know about. This human is clever. I will give her that, said Ventara, a septarian exchange student. But clever is not the same as strong or fast or really capable of anything beyond thinking. The mockery continued. If anything, it intensified. During physical training exercises, Mira was always last. During zero-gravity maneuvering, she vomited into her helmet twice. During combat simulations, she could barely lift the standard issue plasma rifle. The humans are a weak species, Draximus announced one day in the commissary loud enough for Mira to hear. Physically inferior. Their only advantage is a slight talent for problem-solving, which is useful in controlled academic settings but meaningless in actual application. Mira, sitting alone 2 tables away, continued eating her meal. Her expression never changed. I heard Slixare added that on Earth, humans are considered the dominant species only because they have no real competition. Put them against actual predators and they fold. They cannot even regulate their own body temperature properly. Korax laughed. They need clothing and shelter just to survive. The fact I said nothing, but I will admit I did not disagree either. Then came the day that would change everything. The day we learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their intelligence. It was their capacity for bonding. Professor Kilvereth made an announcement during class. Next week we will be conducting a practical field examination on the Academy's biopreserve. It contains specimens from 40 different worlds, including several apex predators. You will be expected to observe, analyze and submit reports on predator-prey dynamics in mixed environment ecosystems. Will we have protection? Asked the nervous Plutonian student. The preserve has multiple security protocols and containment fields. However, yes, you will each be assigned a security companion from the Academy's protection services. What about the human? Draximus called out. Will she need special protection? Perhaps a containment bubble. Laughter filled the room. Mira, as usual, showed no reaction. Miss Hoffman, Professor Kilvereth said, will you require additional safety measures? Mira looked up from her notes. No, Professor. I am bringing my own companion. Your own companion? My pet. I submitted the paperwork 3 weeks ago for approval. It was cleared by Administrator Telquith. This was news to all of us. Humans kept pets. That seemed perfectly in character for such a sentimental species. Very well, Professor Kilvrith said. Please ensure your companion is properly secured during transport to the preserve. She will be, Mira said. And was it my imagination, or did the corners of her mouth twitch slightly? She is very well behaved. The day of the field examination arrived. We gathered at the transport platform, each with our assigned security companions. Slick's ARA had a Corthian enforcer, essentially a walking tank with teeth. Draximus had a Voltri, shock trooper with enough electrical charge to stun a battle cruise. I had a standard Academy guard, a professional Fenarian with body armor and a plasma lance. Mira arrived last carrying a transport crate that must have weighed nearly as much as she did. What does she have in there? Slick's ARA whispered. A rodent. Maybe one of those small earth canines? The crate made a sound. A low rumbling sound that seemed to resonate in my chest cavity. Hoffman, Professor Kilvrith said, what species is your companion? A mammal? Professor. Canis lupus familiaris with some. Canis lupus subspecies ancestry. Canine. I accessed my data pad quickly. Earth canines ranged from tiny companion animals to my blood, which is green by the way, ran cold as I read further. Hoffman, I said slowly, exactly how large is your pet? She looked at me with those two knowing eyes and smiled. Actually smiled. Big enough. That was when the crate began to shake. The transport crate rattled again. Harder this time, and every security companion on that platform suddenly went on high alert. The Corthian enforcer's armor plates shifted into defensive position. The Voltri shock trooper began crackling with barely contained energy. My Fenarian guard raised his plasma lance. Mira, the tiny human child who could barely reach my thorax, calmly walked over to the crate and pressed her small hand against the reinforced door. Easy, girl, she said softly. Just a little longer. Girl. The thing in that crate sounded like it could swallow me whole. And she was calling it girl. Miss Hoffman, Professor Kilvrith said. And for the first time since I had known him, the unflappable Matherian sounded uncertain. Perhaps you should provide us with the specific dimensions of your companion before we proceed. She is about 90 kilograms, Mira said casually. Maybe a bit more since I have been giving her extra treats. And she stands approximately 70 centimeters at the shoulder. I did the conversion in my head. That was massive for an earth creature that was supposedly domesticated. That is larger than the human, Slick's ARA hissed. Yes, Mira agreed. She is a big girl. Grew bigger than the breeder expected actually. Something about the genetic testing not accounting for the wolf percentage properly. Wolf. I knew that word. I had read about earth predators during my xenobiology studies. Wolves were pack hunters, apex predators before humans domesticated them. Except from what I understood, the domestication was not complete. More like a partnership between two predator species. This is highly irregular, said Administrator Telquith, who had arrived to oversee the transport. He was a Bravaxian, a species known for their bureaucratic precision and complete inability to handle chaos. The paperwork said companion animal, not he consulted his data pad. Not a hybrid war beast. She is not a war beast, Mira said. And there was steel in her voice now. She is my friend. And the paperwork was very clear about her species classification and size. Not my fault if nobody actually read it. Oh, that was calculated. I could see it now. The quiet human girl had been planning this, waiting for this moment. Probably since the first day everyone laughed at her. I read the documentation, Professor Kilvrith said mildly. It was all in order. Miss Hoffman is well within her rights to bring her registered companion. Telquith looked like he wanted to argue, but you did not argue with Professor Kilvrith. The Matherian had been at the Academy longer than most of our species had. Achieved spaceflight. Fine, Telquith said. But if that creature causes any problems, any at all, it will be sedated and removed. Clear. Crystal clear, Mira said sweetly. Too sweetly. We boarded the transport. A large carrier designed to hold 50 students and their security details. The crate was loaded into the cargo hold. Still shaking occasionally. Still making those sounds that made my survival instincts scream warnings. During the flight to the biopreserve, nobody sat near Mira. She did not seem to care. She stared out the viewport, humming something under her breath, and I realized with sudden clarity that she was excited. The human was excited. "This is insane," Draximus muttered to me. "They let her bring a predator to a preserve full of other predators. What if it attacks someone? Then our security companions will handle it," I said, trying to sound confident. My Fenarian guard had assured me he had dealt with dangerous fauna from 70 different worlds. Surely one Earth canine was not beyond his capabilities. Surely. We landed at the preserve entrance, a massive facility carved into the side of a mountain. The preserve itself stretched for hundreds of kilometers, contained multiple biomes, and housed some of the most dangerous creatures in known space. It was perfectly safe, we had been assured, as long as you followed protocols and stayed with your security detail. As we disembarked, Mira went straight to the cargo hold. 2 loading servitors were attempting to move her crate with hover lifts. "I can handle it from here," she told them. "Miss, the crate is too heavy for," I said. "I can handle it." She pressed a button on the crate's control panel. The sides folded down and we all took several steps back. The creature that emerged was, look, I have faced down combat drones. I have seen Thoraxian battle cruisers. I once watched a Corthian enforcer tear through a reinforced security door. None of that prepared me for what I saw when Mira's pet stepped out of that crate. She was huge. Not just large, huge. Her fur was thick and dark, almost black with hints of grey along her back. Her eyes, and this is what got me, her eyes were ice blue and disturbingly intelligent. Her teeth, visible when she panted, were designed for one purpose only: kill it. But it was the way she moved that truly terrified me. Fluid, powerful, every step was control.